All right, so Ollama just went head to head with Kimi K3, and the result was not even close. Ollama won 12 tests to 1 across 4 real dimensions, and that number comes from verified sources, not vendor marketing. Kimi K3 is getting a lot of buzz right now as a frontier cloud model. So you want to know if it's actually worth switching to. And that's exactly what we're doing here across 4 real tests with verified sources and 0 vendor spin. What actually surprised me though is that Kimi K3 does have 1 real edge over Ollama. And it's a big one if your use case hits it, so you'll want to stick around to see if it applies to you. Okay, so who is this comparison actually for? Developers, researchers, or honestly just anyone running AI tools who cares about privacy or hardware costs. Because picking the wrong tool here means either your data leaves your machine without you knowing, or you're paying for cloud compute you don't need. Test 1 is deployment flexibility, and this is the one that determines whether you can actually use these tools in the real world. Because if you work in a regulated industry or just don't want to depend on someone else's server, this dimension is everything. Ollama runs locally today, offline, air-gapped, 0 internet after the initial download, and the CLI is identical whether you're running local or cloud, while Kimi K3 is cloud only right now, full stop, with weights not going public until July 27th, 2026. And even then, you'll need 8H100S just to get started. Ollama takes test 1, and it's not really a contest because Kimi K3 simply cannot run offline today. So the score sits at Ollama 1, Kimi K3 0, and if deployment control matters to you at all, Ollama is the only option on the board right now. To be fair, both tools offer a cloud API today, so if you're fine with cloud access, that part is actually a tie, and after July 27th, 2026, you could self-host Kimi K3, but the hardware bar is so high that for most people, self-hosting K3 just won't be realistic. Test 2 is consumer hardware speed, which is really about whether you can run either of these on the machine you already own, an RTX 4090, a MacBook with Apple Silicon, that kind of thing. Because needing a data center just to get started changes the whole cost calculation for most people. Ollama runs Llama 3.170 billion at around 4 tokens per second on a single RTX 4090 and around 12 tokens per second on an M2 Max with 96 gigabytes. While Kimi K3 needs roughly 720 gigabytes of memory minimum just to load. So an RTX 4090 or an M4 Ultra, none of it qualifies. Ollama takes test 2 because Kimi K3 cannot run on any consumer hardware, period, which brings a score to Ollama 2, Kimi K3 0, and if you're trying to run AI locally on hardware you actually own, Kimi K3 isn't even in the conversation right now. I take this with a grain of salt though, because the speed numbers for Ollama are community reported, not from a controlled lab. And Kimi K3's reasoning quality is frontier level. So you're not really comparing the same thing, more like comparing a car you own to a sports car you have to rent. Test 3 is model availability and compatibility, which is really about flexibility, whether you can swap models for different tasks and plug into your existing tools like LangChain or Claude Code. Because the more models and integrations available, the more you can actually shape the tool around your workflow instead of the other way around. Ollama has over 45,000 GGUF models on Hugging Face and connects to LangChain, Llama Index, Crew AI, Claude Code, and more. While Kimi K3 is one model available through its own API and open router. So keep in mind, these are genuinely different categories, a platform versus a single model. Ollama takes test 3 because 4,500 plus models with broad API compatibility just can't be matched by a single model, even a Frontier 1, putting us at Ollama 3, Kimi K3 0, though Kimi K3 does win the context window subtest at 1 million tokens, which is genuinely impressive. Test 4 is privacy and data control. And honestly, this might be the one that matters most to a lot of you guys. Because if you're working with sensitive code, client data, legal documents, or anything regulated, you need to know exactly where your prompts are going and whether someone else is reading them. Ollama Local mode sends 0 data externally, confirmed through community network isolation testing. While Kimi K3's own privacy policy says it collects user content to optimize its models, and the servers run under Chinese law, which creates real compliance risk for US health, legal, and finance use cases. Ollama takes test 4 because nothing leaves your machine in local mode. And that's a hard guarantee Kimi K3's hosted API simply can't match right now, bringing the final score to Ollama 4, Kimi K3 0, and for anyone in a regulated industry, this one isn't even a close call. There's a real nuance here though. If Kimi K3 releases its open weights on July 27, 2026, and you self-host it on your own infrastructure, the privacy story becomes identical to Ollama's local mode. But the catch is you'll need 88100S to do it. So for most people, that option is theoretical, not practical. Ollama wins on 4 concrete things. It runs on your RTX 4090 or M2 Mac today, keeps your data on your machine with 0 external packets confirmed by network testing, gives you access to over 4,500 models with broad tool compatibility, and works fully offline once you've downloaded the model. Kimi K3 wins on specific things too. Its 1 million token context window is way beyond what most consumer hardware can run locally. You get frontier level reasoning through an API without owning a single GPU. And it supports image input alongside text, which is confirmed and not available on most Ollama models you'd run at home. So here's the decision rule. If you care about privacy, offline use, or running AI on hardware you already own, Ollama is the only real option right now. But if you need frontier reasoning on super long documents and you're comfortable with your prompts going to a cloud server, Kimi K3's API is worth it.